Trump and Biden is when Biden first started campaigning, right? I'll never forget. He went on Instagram and an Instagram account. I think I was the first person to comment on Instagram when he created his first post. And I said, it's official. Biden's going to be announcing that he's running. I think 60 days later, he announced he's running and boom, he ran. So then he goes in, he kind of watching everybody, it's him, it's Sanders, it's all these other guys, Pete, Kamala, the first one, him and Kamala went at it. Then slowly but surely, Sanders came out, this person came out, that person came out, and it's him. So it went from AOC and Sanders camp, Elizabeth Warren's camp, Kamala's camp, to now let's make a decision. It's going to be Biden. Then when the debate started, we thought he was going to protect a lot of AOC and Bernie's philosophy, socialism. Let's go out there and $80 trillion, $30 trillion over 10 years for climate change. And then he became president. When he became president, he didn't put AOC on the administration. He didn't go out there and put a lot of these guys on the team. He went pretty moderate. Let's just say moderate. He's still left, but not as left as we thought he was going to be. Came out with executive orders. I think it's the second highest executive order since FDR. FDR did 32 in his first 30 days. And I think he's done 28. And I think Obama's third right after that. So then we have him today. You don't see him a lot on TV. You saw Trump on TV every day. You don't see him on Twitter, quiet. You don't even know if he exists. No one knows what he's doing. He could be golfing right now. He could be playing video games right now, Fortnite. We don't know what he's doing right now, right? We have no idea what he's doing right now. Then he becomes the president, and now we have the new, everything that's coming out. Do you think he's going to be the president that'll be quiet? We won't hear a lot from him. He'll be a little bit center left. He'll do some of the stuff that he needs to do to protect the left, but not far left. And he'll stay committed to his views, and he'll be controlled by Wall Street that's going to impose certain things that we need you to do this, we need you to do this, we need you to do that. But there's not going to be any major changes taking place for years. Or do you think he's just getting warmed up? Be patient. There's going to be dramatic changes taking place between now and midterms.
Well, I think there are dramatic changes taking place. I mean, basically, he's put Israel on notice. And of course, you now have the issue of what's happening to Bibi Netanyahu. And you've got the communist Chinese helping the Iranians stir up a hornet's nest. They've already issued the kinds of orders to our military that, quite frankly, I don't see them helpful. I mean, his executive order is saying that the military's got to help transsexuals. That does nothing for military readiness. They're non-deployable. I mean, there's no way that that's a positive sign for our military. They've already looked at the weapons exchanges we've got with Saudi Arabia, with Taiwan. In other words, what we've been doing is trying to build relationships with allies who can help us carry out our foreign policy. He said the other day that diplomacy is now the center of our foreign policy. This is a speech that he made at the State Department. Au contraire, Mr. President, the fact is diplomacy is not the center of our foreign policy. U.S. interests are the center of American foreign policy. Diplomacy is simply a tool by which you get what is best for our country. I mean, and so I don't necessarily agree with you, Patrick, that he's going to be just a center-left kind of guy. I look at those kinds of things that are happening today and the effect it's having on our allies, the effect that it's going to have on our adversaries, and saying, this is not helpful. Domestically, the idea that we're going to solve the problem of COVID, right, with nothing more than wearing a mask, and oh, by the way, airlines have got to make sure that everybody gets on an airplane, gets tested, that you're talking years away. I mean, the idea of delays I'm looking out into the beautiful mountains of Virginia right here, but I'm looking at empty parking lots in the middle of the day. The highways are empty coming to work. And I live 75 miles west of Washington, okay? When I get on the road nowadays and there's very little traffic still, right? And the idea that we can have this many people out of work and they're now going to pass additional funding that it's going to give everybody, what, $1,400 in the pocket, $1,400 in their pocket. To me, that's not the answer. The answer is getting people vaccinated so that we're not going to be hit with this plague for Psalm 101 in the Old Testament, what nice Jewish friends of mine call the Torah. Psalm 101. Look at what is written there about pestilence, plagues, and enemies. And that's why I say that most of what we need today is a spiritual reawakening in this country. It doesn't have to be a particular denomination. But you can't alienate Christianity in this country by doing many of the things that they're doing. I mean, socially, the idea of saying the taxpayers of the United States are now going to pay, because of these executive orders, the people of America are now going to pay for abortions worldwide, and Planned Parenthood's going to be able to carry them out in the United States. Donald Trump stopped that, much to the acclaim of probably being the best, most pro-life president we've ever had. And unfortunately, all that's being changed. So culturally, spiritually, politically, economically, and national security wise, I don't see Biden as being particularly helpful to what we need to be as a nation.
Well, you're saying far left. I mean, far left to me is raising taxes, and getting rid of all the tax cuts that we had the last 4 years. Far left for me would be, if we go out there with the $30 trillion budget over the next 10 years for climate change. Far left would be, let's eliminate all of college debt, the $1.5 trillion, which is what Elizabeth Warren proposed. Far left to me is UBI. Let's give $1,000 income for every American, the whole Andrew Yang. So that's why I see far left because I've lived in far left. So far left, then you have left. So far left to me is socialism, communism. Do you think he's going to go that far?
Well, certainly if we did the things that the vice president of the United States wants done, and he does it legislatively because of we've lost the Senate, the conservatives lost the Senate. She now makes she's already done it twice now, and she's probably going to do it again here in the hearings that are ongoing right now. And they're going to continue this farce that's happening in Washington, D.C. I don't see any of that that's unifying to this country or good for the future. Again, I come back to those 18 grandkids.
Yep.
Right? I mean, the middle school ones, okay, when I get home at night, they say to Granddad, what is this about an impeachment? They've got the Constitution they're supposed to be looking at. And I don't see any provision for that in this Constitution right here, Granddad. How can we be doing it? I said, because the far left is in charge of Washington, D.C. I mean, Patrick, if you think about it, the Constitution has guided nearly every president and through the most difficult times we've ever had as a nation, a civil war, right? And so people say, is this the worst of times? Heck no. America survived far worse than this. 670,000 Americans died in that civil war, and the population wasn't a third of what it is today. So my concern, Patrick, is that too many people are taken up. It's going to be all right. Well,
okay. I'm kind of there with you. I think the future looks bright, and I don't see him being the far left because I don't see Biden as a true believer. I see Sanders as a true believer, meaning Sanders becomes president, you're not going to be able to control him. He's going to do what he's going to do because you could care less. He's been a true believer since he got married in Russia. I don't see Biden as a true believer. I see Biden as a JFK coming from there. Maybe he's moved a little bit more to the left because that's what the times have changed. And by the way, this is not an endorsement. This is not an endorsement I'm giving. I'm just saying the concerns, because now that it's validated, I understand during the 18 months of campaign, if Biden gets elected, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. But now that we're here and everybody wants to try to figure out how to pivot and make the adjustments, is it the end of the world? I think I'm kind of with you. I don't think it's the end of the world.
I would point out to you that if Kamala Harris becomes the president of the United States,
I agree.
All right. The goose is pretty well cooked at that point.
I agree there. I agree there. So 2024, do you think 2024 Biden will still run, or will the face be Kamala? What do you think is going to happen in 2024?
I think enough people are already finding out what's the right word? I don't think the guy's got, Alzheimer's or anything, but I think he's a feeble man. I don't see him as a leader. I mean, if you wanted to be a great leader, right, you get elected president of the United States, the Speaker of the House, who is a crazy leftist, stands up and says, we're going to impeach the guy you just beat. And at that point, a real leader says, I really want to be the unifier of America. Picks up the phone and says, Ms. Pelosi, stop it. Stop it before you vote on it, because it's not, first of all, he's not going to get convicted. And all it's going to do is make it more difficult to unify the country. But he's not really a unifier. You see, quite frankly, he's not much at all. I agree with you. He's not the far crazy leftist that Kamala Harris is. But the bottom line of it is, God forbid something happens to the guy. I mean, he's older than I am, and I'm a pretty old guy. And so I don't think he's going to be shoveling off the deck over in Massachusetts Avenue where he once lived, or the White House. But the bottom line of it is, something happens to him, she convinces people to invoke the 25th Amendment, which a lot of people were trying to get Vice President Pence to do. He had the wisdom not to do that. He had the wisdom to make sure that there was a transition. And the letter he wrote And I was just looking at it before we went on air, and I couldn't find the darn thing. The letter he wrote about why he did not do what others were urging him to do, and others included President Trump, was the Constitution of the United States. It's a beautifully written piece. It ought to have been on the front page of every newspaper in America, and it wasn't. And unfortunately, it's not in front of me, because I read it into the record right here with you, Patrick, because it's right spiritually, it's right economically, it's right politically, and it's a constitutional answer to why he didn't invoke the 25th Amendment or try to get all of what was going on in Washington turned upside down. And unfortunately, what happens on the 6th just takes all the accomplishments of that administration, and there are many, and basically buries them underneath that riot that occurred up on the Capitol.
I agree with that. There's something very, I don't know what it is, like there's something very peaceful about Mike Pence. I don't know how to describe it.
So if you like this little short clip from an interview I did, click over here to watch the entire interview. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.